Folks, peace and welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot of great conversations lined up for you today. First, let's talk about what's happening out of Lincoln University, that HBCU in Pennsylvania, how that president was cleared in the suicide of the black professor. We'll talk the latest about that. Also, as we continue our conversation about P. Diddy, and asking the question, was the Diddy raid misuse of force? Well, this is what his lawyers are saying is a major allegation. Plus, we got to bring you up to speed on another development in that particular case. Also, later on, we'll talk about how the Supreme Court is continuing to debate the access to abortion pills in America. We'll have that conversation. And later, let's talk about Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida's social media ban for children. We got a lot to discuss, so we want you to join us. Make sure you check us out on blackstarnetwork.com and on all social media platforms, and stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Happy Wednesday, folks. It is Wednesday, March 27th, as we're getting through the week, but happy Wednesday. We are streaming live. There we go. We are streaming live on a number of platforms, but first check us out on our home platform at blackstarnetwork.com. Go to our website today, download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And we ask that you just throw something in the bucket for us today, as we're looking for your support. Your donation makes a world of difference. So you can show how much you appreciate this content, the program, and all that we bring to the station and all that we bring to the conversation here on Black Star Network. So make sure you do your due diligence and check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, check us out on Amazon platforms. You can find us on Amazon News on your Fire TV. We're also streaming on Amazon Prime Video. Take a look at that. Find us on the Prime Video app under Live TV, The News, or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Live TV, The News. Or you can also check us out on the Freevee network. That's right. Find us now under News for Freevee for Black Star Network. And you can also check us out on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network or find us under Live TV, The News, and Opinion. And we are streaming right now on Big Brother Roland Martin's social media pages. You can see us on his Facebook page. Big shout out to the Culture crew on the Facebook page, as well as the crew on the YouTube channel for Big Brother Roland Martin. You can find us there. There we go. And as well as the Great X platform, you can find us there as well too. It is Wednesday, so let's check in with my sister. She is a phenomenal political analyst and contributor here on the show and to this network. She is a licensed attorney out of the state of Florida, the host of the Suzette Speaks show, and you can find her here on every Wednesday here on The Culture. My sister Suzette Speaks is in the building.
Happy Wednesday. How are you?
Happy Wednesday, Suzette Speaks. How you feeling today?
Feeling excellent, actually. So much news to talk about, y'all. Stay tuned. We got a great show for you.
A lot to talk about. All right, let's get into before we take our first pause, let's talk about what's happening out of Lincoln University, that HBCU, where it has been announced that the unfortunate, and if folks that know about this story, where we remember the black professor who killed herself. Sister, her name was Antoinette Bonnie Candia Bailey, and she committed suicide because she was just under a lot of mental stress and strain, going through some depression. She had said to a number of friends and family members it was because of the toxic work environment that she was under, working for the president of Lincoln University in Missouri. I said Pennsylvania, and I meant to say Missouri, not Pennsylvania. But she was working under President John Mosley. And as a result of the working conditions there, Suzette, she ended up killing herself. And it was, of course, major story. We've talked about it here. But now they have found that this particular president was not the cause of any bullying within the workplace, even though, excuse me, our dear sister indicated in emails and in other conversations that he was a problem, that their relationship had soured over the time that she had been there as a Black administrator. So let me just share this with you, get your first take on this, Suzette, then we're going to take our pause. But let me share, this is coming from from Lincoln University, where they had decided that President John Mosley, he was paid, folks, and take a look at this. This is from NBC News. Because he was put on paid leave after the death in January of Antoinette Bonnie Candia Bailey, the vice president of student affairs at Lincoln, which is at HBCU in Missouri. According to their statement, they're saying, quote, "For us, this report is not the end of a process, but rather the beginning of one." According to Victor Paisley, the president of the university's board of curators, he said this in a statement last week. He said, "None of its findings have led the board to doubt President Mosley's ability to lead the university, but this tragedy has forced us to grapple more fully with issues facing Lincoln and our individual students and employees, ranging from mental health support to employee work and relationships," and talking about essentially that he was not the cause and he was not the reason, and that they decided to keep him. What's your first take on this?
Yeah, we have to get deeper into it because this is a conversation about many things. And one of them, as you pointed out, is that Dr. Bonnie, in conversations with friends and close confidants, that she did implicate that the president of Lincoln University, who happens to be a white man who is leading the university there, the HBCU, Mr. Mosley, was the source of a toxic work environment, of her feeling a sense of hostility when she went to work. However, as you stated, there has been a third-party investigation, of which after the break we can discuss the results, but he is keeping his job at this time.
He's keeping his job. Look, we're going to go into more details around this case. So, crew, I want you to post your comments, share your thoughts as we check in with my sister Suzette Speaks, and I want to hear from you. We would love to hear what you have to say, as it's been announced from Lincoln University in Missouri that President John Mosley will stay on the job, even though the Black administration, Dr. Bonnie, had killed herself and indicated that he was a problem. We want to hear what you have to say around this. Stay with us, join and continue to tune in and be ready for the conversation on the other side. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. He stoked racial violence, attacked voting rights, and if reelected, vowed to be a dictator and, quote, get revenge. We can't go back. As president, I put money in pockets, creating millions of new jobs, and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Game on. State of the Union 2024. Huge night for President Joe Biden.
This was a CVS receipts type of night.
He dragged the hell out of the Supreme Court. And he said, y'all gonna see the power of women.
Trump's brain is melting as we speak.
We want to organize from a place of strength.
There's no confusion whatsoever about what they've done and what they plan to do.
What Donald Trump is doing is presenting a fallacy.
He is convincing them that he's all in it for them, when in fact he's all in it for himself.
We do not feel Joe Biden. In spite of the success that have taken place during this administration economically, there are too many things where we do not feel like he's had our back.
You should also be investing in the barbershops and the beauty salons and the hookah bars and the folks who are going to the club, and there's a way to actually get them registered because we've done it before. But if you don't have folks who understand that dynamic, then you're missing a big opportunity.
So we said we just celebrated. For what? Why don't you go to Selma to celebrate rather than recommit yourself to the fight if the very thing we went to celebrate has been gutted?
Republicans did not support a lot of the bills that were necessary to keep the country fluid. You can't only love your country when you win, right?
Oh, no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut?
This was absolutely the knockdown, drag out that we were really waiting for.
Black voters are the base. They're the most important base of the Democratic Party. There was very few language in this speech. At the time we see an attack on black history, attack on DEI. The end of the BLM racial reckoning thing has come to a complete end because there was nothing in this speech for that.
Our movement has never been grounded in two-party politics in this country. All of our movements ultimately get co-opted by a state that is anti-black.
They called the old because they knew the way, and they called the young because they were strong. And I believe there is a good combination of that, but we can have ideas and we can have visions and dreams, but we have to have our young people also working beside us because they are strong and they will run that race and they will run it to the end.
Activists, organizers, and young people have been pushing this administration to be on the right side of history and to do something about the issues that they care about.
While the Ukraine and Palestine are critical issues, they are not the only global issues.
Not a single black person who should ever let it come out their mouth that I'm tired. Because there is somebody else who came before us who didn't stop fighting.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation as I check in with my sister Suzette Speaks, as well as you, as we talk about with the latest that came out of Lincoln University in Missouri, where Dr. Bonnie Candia Bailey was a black administrator. She was the vice president of student affairs there, and she ended up killing herself as a result of what she deemed as being a toxic work environment, a souring relationship with her and the university president, President John Mosley, and some other issues. Well, it was announced last week that President John Mosley will stay on the job as president of Lincoln University, which is a historically black college in Missouri, and essentially cleared. He was cleared of any wrongdoing based upon an investigation and a report. And Suzette, they're saying that the board, they're saying that they don't have any doubt about President Mosley's ability to lead the university, but they are going to grapple, they're forced to grapple with issues facing Lincoln and other individual students and employees. So how is it that they were able to clear him, even though Dr. Bonnie explicitly talked about her relationship with the president and how it went downhill?
I think there are so many lessons that we can take from this story. And I think we're getting a little bit of feedback from you, Farajii. I'm not sure if we can correct it. But this is, again, there are so many aspects of this story that hit home. First of all, Dr. Bonnie, rest in peace. She, again, took her life in January, having been a faculty at North Carolina A&T, other schools. This is during her term as a dean, at Lincoln University, historically black university in Missouri. So when she had been talking to friends, etc., she had indicated that there was a lot of stress that she was experiencing while she was working there under this president's administration, Mr. Mosley, John Mosley. And she explicitly basically accused him of bullying her and being the source of a toxic work environment. However, during this months-long investigation, the university has now come forward and said that through a third-party neutral person, basically a neutral firm, investigation of what took place and basically of what they could find, there was no evidence, I'll quote, found no claim of bullying by the university president, and that it could not be, quote, substantiated. That's what the university said in a statement. So unfortunately, these type of cases, and again, I'm not giving legal advice, just for informational purposes and educational purposes only. When you see cases like this, when there are hostile work environments, you have to make sure, if this happens to you, you are making documentation of what happened and when. That can be in the form of something written at your desk. That could be in the form of you telling a coworker or a close loved one. But when things like this happen, it's important that you keep a record of it. If you keep a daily notebook, a diary, something that can be used as evidence if and when you need it. So I think in these type of situations, we find ourselves when things are exchanged just by conversations, and you don't know what was said to that person in the heat of the moment, and things that could have come up during those conversations, but are not necessarily written anywhere, or were not necessarily told to another person. It can definitely be hard to substantiate and to defend. So I think, again, not knowing anything, I have not seen any transcript or any kind of information that was collected, but according to the university, they did their due diligence, and now the president, Mr. Mosley, will be retained and has been fully instated. He was actually suspended during the time of the investigation, but now they're saying he has now been cleared.
So, I mean, and I know we got to take another quick pause, but it's how was this justice? And what does the family of Dr. Bonnie and her friends and her community, what can they do moving forward? Because it seems like there's something really happening under here. Do you think that this might be a cover up of some sort?
I can't go as far as to say that, but when I watched videos about from the students there, the student body there, they have been protesting. They have gone to the state capitol. They have not let this story die. They are very much impacted, and have been. They said they didn't like the way the university handled it. There was no like email announcement of the passing, et cetera, immediately, and things like this. And they do believe that there's more to the story. They have asked for a change of administration. They have gone to, and I think they're called the Board of Curators there at Lincoln University. Yeah. The president, Paisley, has stated that, they want someone who maintains the values of the university, understands its history, and wants to, move it forward in a positive direction. And the Board of Curators seems to be in support of what the report has found. So yeah, I don't know that everybody in the Lincoln University community and then their alumni base is totally on board, and of course our family. But again, there have been due to this passing of this dear educator and academician, is that this mental health also conversation has come forward as a lot of the stresses, the happiest people talk about her as being joyful and being like a second mom on campus, and how much she gave to students. Like, to hear the students talk about her, it is frightening that someone like that, who seems as if on the outside, at least to them, that she was in good spirits and that she was, had a positive outlook, etc. But it is not, for us, without looking at the evidence that they collected in the investigation, it's very hard to make, a conjecture about what is fair or unfair. But again, the evidence that she gave to others before her passing seemed to indicate something to the contrary. But based on what this investigative firm was able to find, it is hard to now, kind of counteract it or say that it's not true or it's not fair without seeing the body of it. So I can't really comment on that. But I don't know, again, if it is satisfying to the students or the Lincoln University community, or even, most definitely the family, that this is now the outcome. But as far as the Lincoln University Board of Curators is a part of this decision, they seem to be resting on, the fact that they did due diligence, that they did an investigation, and this is what it yielded.
Hey, Suzette, I'm gonna just say, but as we take our next pause, I don't think that we're gonna hit the last of this story.
Possibly not, because
I
if
think
there is
gonna
any
be
truth
some
to it,
appeal of some,
this person, this won't be the first and last time. If this happens again, it wouldn't be a surprise. But again, we have to go by, they did the investigation and this is what the outcome is. But long live Dr. Bonnie.
Long live Dr. Bonnie. Hey, look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, we'll continue our conversation about Diddy as more developments in his case come up, when not only did the federal investigators raid his two homes in Los Angeles and Miami, but now they also have found guns on the premises. We'll talk a little bit about that. And was the raid a misuse of force? That's what his lawyer is claiming. We'll have the conversation with Suzette Speaks and you. So stay with us. That discussion is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. As president, I put money in pockets and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together.
I need you to scream for your new beginning. 5, 4, 3, 2. I need you to shout for it. I need you to shout for it. It won't always be like this. Sooner or later, it's gonna work in your brother's favor, in your sister's favor. They shall not die. They shall not die. They shall not die. I want you to embrace somebody and tell them welcome to the greatest season of your life. Hug somebody, welcome.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister Suzette Speaks, as we talk about some of the big issues. And folks, let's switch gears. Let's talk about something that has been on social media. I mean, it's been blowing up social media, Suzette. And this story right here has got so many different legs. That's the terminology we use in like journalism and media. Like, this story got legs. And there are so many different pieces and layers to it that it's trying to kind of like break it down and present this information to folks is a very big challenge. So let me just bring folks up to speed on the latest, some of the big developments coming from this case. We know that Diddy's home was raided on Monday, his home in both Miami and Los Angeles. He has 2 residences in Miami, 1 here in Los Angeles. So you know, we representing for both of those cities right now.
Both sides.
Both sides of the country.
Down the street from you and down the street from me. Yes.
Right. But this has been a major situation on not just for the culture, not for Black music, but just legally, because these raids happen as a result of the federal investigation of looking into Diddy for his involvement in a sex trafficking criminal enterprise. And of course, this came up as a result of and I think this was part of it, of what we saw coming from the lawsuit from his former producer, Lil Rod, who's put it out there saying that he believes that Diddy was doing some sex trafficking as he lived and traveled with Diddy from various states during his time. So now we're at the raid. So first thing about this raid, I want to talk about this first thing and get your legal advice on this. Let's talk about, was this raid a misuse of force? because this is what his lawyer, Aaron Dyer, had claimed. Take a look at this. This is coming from CNN, and we're looking at this. Aaron Dyer, who's Diddy's attorney, said in a statement on Tuesday, yesterday there was a gross overuse of military-level force as search warrants were executed at Mr. Combs' residences. There is no excuse for the excessive show of force and hostility exhibited by authorities or the way his children and employees were. Now, there has been some footage of what happened as his sons Justin and Christian were handcuffed outside of his LA home in Holmby Hills, and that got the internet talking. Then there was some footage of Diddy being stopped in Miami at the airport there in Miami before they said that he was supposed to take a flight outside of the country. But we saw footage of him kind of pacing nervously. So that got people talking. But was this a misuse of force? Is this something expected? And Suzette, I've seen raids before. I've seen raids of people's homes, businesses, and even in City Hall. Was this a misuse of force here?
I don't know. This is too early to determine, Farajii, because we haven't seen. I've been looking and Googling the search warrant. Okay. I want to know what was the probable cause. And again, that's all you need for a search warrant and to execute a search of this type of magnitude. There must have been some sort of probable cause brought before a judge who made the determination that there was either evidence or some sort of quantity of evidence that led to the belief that a crime either had been committed, was being committed, or will be committed in the near future. So without seeing the search warrant, and I think that's what the lawyers are waiting on, is to be able to determine what exactly was the probable cause affidavit. What did they surmise based on what kind of testimony and what kind of evidence did they go into this man's home? Both of them in Beverly Hills, as you said, around 3 o'clock yesterday in Miami Beach, his Miami residence. And it was very, very, I think, press being on the scene. It was, harrowing, I think, for us to see it in real time with all the press stacked up, there in his West Coast home and then also on his East Coast home. But I think it all will depend on what we see in the legal documents. I think, as you've alluded to, some of the civil lawsuits that had presented all of this salacious, information and allegations. Again, Mr. Combs has maintained his innocence. Just because there has been, I'll put this out there, let me say that just because there has been a raid does not necessarily mean he is actually at the center of the investigation. He may have information about a certain crime that possibly had been committed, is being committed, or will be, but we don't have any confirmation yet, although it is at both of his homes, that he necessarily is a center. What that means is what I've read into it, seeing it happen simultaneously like this, is to not allow any time for a defendant to possibly, or a person of interest to possibly destroy any evidence. So once one home was already given the green light, so to speak, by a judge, then there becomes this argument that they don't want to tip off the person so that evidence is destroyed at another location. Hence why we probably see both locations at the same time. But again, this is not any indication of guilt, right? This is an indication of probable cause of a possible crime, etc. But for right now, like I said, I have been leading right up to this show, looking for the search warrant itself, trying to read it for myself to see exactly what they thought might have been happening. But it was leaked, as you said, that it has possible ties to it. Again, these are allegations. Nothing has been proven to sex trafficking. And again, that's a broad allegation. People think overseas. I mean, people are trafficked. Americans are trafficked every single day. So there's a lot of different elements to that crime. So it's very hard to speculate as to what the nature may be. But it was very harrowing to watch yesterday as this all unfolded. And of course, we saw his sons be handcuffed, waiting outside while investigators went through the home. We've now seen pictures available online that show, the ransacking of the home. But that's what feds do. Like, he's not being treated.
I'm about to say, what? I mean, we got to take a quick pause. But I was going to say that I was going to bring that up, Suzette, because I'm looking at social media, some of these gossip sites and everything. They're like, oh, this is the video of the home. I'm like, this seems pretty like normal for when they bust through your home. When they're looking for certain information or certain, whether it's computer information or whatever the case may be, they're going to ransack your home. And some people say, oh, they didn't have to go through the man's clothes. First and foremost, these are things, these are not people. They didn't come up there and busting Justin and Christian in the mouth and, you know what I mean? They ransacked the home. And here's my question on it that I'd like to get your take on. Wouldn't they go this far if they didn't at least have something on Diddy? And I think that's the part about it. Like, I just never heard of a raid. And like I said, I've seen raids done on a lot of people, political figures and other folks. I feel like the raid happens when they have something solid to work from to at least start the investigation. And I want to kind of get your take on it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Suzette said, you know what? Don't open up this can for Farajii. All right, look. We're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's get that question and more questions answered from our sister Suzette Speaks. And crew, share your thoughts as we have this conversation. Post your comments on the Facebook page and on the Big Brother Roland Martin's YouTube channel. I would love to hear what you got to say about this element, this development in the case. Do you think it was a misuse of force? I got to bring something else into the conversation as well on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
I have something I want to tell you. I am running for president.
Of the United States? Holy.
I'm paving the road for a lot of other people looking like me to get elected.
Brooklyn's first black representative.
You're about to make history.
You want to be president? You ain't no man.
Maybe we should find your mother. All you got is your one vote.
You sound just like every other politician.
Do I look like every other politician?
Truly, you can't win.
And why can't I win? I have an opportunity to make a difference.
This isn't a campaign. It's a joke. The only thing anybody's gonna remember is that there were a bunch of black folks who made fools of themselves.
See too much suffering. And I don't know how to not try.
We're living it proud.
I don't think I'm special. I just want to remind people what's possible.
We need something that's going to make some noise.
The Black Panthers and Shirley Chisholm. It's like thunder and lightning. I'm going to force all the politicians to be held accountable.
You gonna do all that? School teacher from Brooklyn.
Harriet was just a slave. Rosa was just a domestic. What is it you do for a living again? The people of America are watching us.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm joined by my sister and contributor, Suzette Speaks, as we talk about this latest claim from Diddy's attorney saying that the raid that we saw on Monday was a misuse of force. Do you agree with the lawyer on this? Post your comments as we're streaming live on Big Brother Roland Martin's YouTube and Facebook pages. But Suzette, would they even go as far as to bust into somebody's home unless they have something solid to begin with?
Well, there are several arguments to be made because the feds, once they show up, the conviction rate for someone who is then charged, again, there are no arrests been made.
Right.
No affidavits for arrest, nothing like that yet. And there are no charges that have been filed. So again, a little bit premature again for what we're seeing and how much speculation there is around why we're seeing it. We still don't have the paperwork. So that's why I'm trying to be very judicious in kind of expressing how much they have on someone, so to speak, and whether it's justified or not. Once we see the search warrant, once we see the evidence list and why they're collecting it, there's reports that there were evidence vans, especially in the Beverly Hills home and also in the Miami home of Mr. Sean Diddy Combs. And that, usually when you see those type of trucks, they're collecting evidence. There were boxes apparently that were reports of allegedly the boxes coming off the second floor in the Miami home, coming down with some boxes to these trucks of Homeland Security that were posted outside. So again, there's so much more questions than we have answers when it comes to, was it justified or is there something pending? Normally, I would say when you see it like this, feds show up when they feel almost certain that they have a reasonable amount of evidence to bring forth some sort of case. But again, we don't know yet. And again, we're making a presumption against Mr. Combs, but we don't know of who. We really don't know of who yet, who will be the center of the investigation, technically speaking, although it was at his residences. There are a lot of people who are associated with those residences and actions that took place there, involved others. There can be a larger web of possible, and it's too early to call them defendants or people of interest. So again, he has maintained his innocence. His lawyer is doing what the lawyer is expected to do, which is to say this was wrong, this was crazy. There's no evidence. We've been in cooperation up to this point, and that they're fully cooperative and that they deny all possible allegations. But without any actual charge, without any evidence, again, as to what was actually collected in the search warrant, we're doing a lot of speculation at this point. But we do just to acknowledge that there has been this very checkered past that the 4 lawsuits that we're seeing in New York, even now, the feds are looking at them. It is there a possibility that they looked at what was presented in Cassie Ventura's civil suit and others and took information from there or interviewed witnesses from there and went ahead and tried to do more investigation? Possibly. I do think, as you stated earlier, that those lawsuits did impact the possibility of there being a criminal suit, or a criminal case. So I do think maybe, those things are working in tandem against Mr. Combs at this time. But again, he has not been charged with anything. There is nothing that states that they're trying to arrest him, etc.
All right, let's go to the crew. Janelle, my sister, you said, welcome back, Janelle. Good to connect with you. You said, was it a bona fide search of Diddy's properties? Trump's people told the Popo that certain rooms were fine and the feds took their word for it.
That didn't seem like they was kicking in no. No, babe. This one is different.
This is a different case, but I hear you. I know, but in a court of public opinion, people are going to bring up the treatment of Trump versus the treatment of Diddy in this particular case. But obviously, the nature of the cases are completely different. Apples and oranges, from classified documents to you being involved in a criminal enterprise, which according to the 4 alleged criminal enterprise, which in those 4 lawsuits that you're speaking of include sex trafficking, solicitation, distribution of illegal narcotics and firearms. Because the other part of it is, in this latest development, they also found guns in the homes of Diddy. And this came up yesterday. We reported it here, Suzette, that one of, they called him an alleged drug mule for Diddy, was arrested in Miami as part of the case. but they actually found guns at both his LA and Miami properties. And so that takes the case up to another level of seriousness. So how does that play out if they find something like that? Like, okay, we came in to look for computers. Oh, and you got some firearms. Where does that
Listen,
take?
it depends if they are registered legally or not. And again, sometimes we do have these kind of, coincidental, if you will. They're going to look for one thing and they find something else. That does not.
That's all the time. Isn't that all the time in law enforcement?
That does not take it off the table at all. So
and
again,
I'm just
lawsuit. Go ahead.
No, real quick, Suzette, I was just going to say, and that's what get people caught up. You know what I mean? It'd be like, oh, he does a simple traffic stop. Next thing you know, they pop open the door and here come drugs falling out the door. You like, oh my God.
But also, I know we need to go to break, but also there are allegations that Mr. Combs taped a lot of what happened in and around his properties. So seeing the computers being taken and other software and things like this, to me, is a clue as to what they might be looking for.
Absolutely. We got to take a quick pause. When we come back, more conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. He stoked racial violence, attacked voting rights, and if reelected, vowed to be a dictator and, quote, get revenge. We can't go back. As president, I put money in pockets, creating millions of new jobs, and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Terry and I, we couldn't play in the white clubs in Minnesota. It felt like such a, strength through adversity type moment that I think Black people just have to go through. We have to figure it out.
Right.
We make lemons out of lemonade. But there's a reason we rented a ballroom, did our own show, promoted it, got like 1,500 people to come out. Clubs were sitting empty. They were like, where's everybody at? And I said, they're down watching the band you wouldn't hire. So it taught us not only that we had the talent of musicians, but we also had have the talent of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a seat at the table. It's like, no, let's build the table.
That's right.
We got to build the table. And,
that's right.
And that was the thing. And of course, after that, we got all kinds of offers.
Of course.
Right, to come play in the clubs. But we didn't do it.
You're like, no, we're good.
No, we're good. We're good. And that's what put us on a path of national. And of course, when Prince made it, then it was like, okay, we see it can be done.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Checking in with my assistant contributor, Suzette Speaks, as we talk about the latest around Sean Diddy Combs and that historic, I would say infamous raid of his homes in LA and Miami that led to federal investigators, Homeland Security investigators, to even find guns on the property. And Suzette, you said that, guns certainly can be found in homes as long as they're licensed and they fit the bill of what they're supposed to be doing or how folks are using it and all of those things. But it still takes the conversation up because a lot of the reason of the raid is because of those lawsuits from Lil Rod and Cassie and those other individuals. Now they're looking at Diddy being allegedly a part of criminal enterprise that includes sex trafficking, sexual assault, and solicitation and distribution of illegal narcotics and firearms. So this gets even more serious on so many different levels. How do for Black folks having these conversations about how this whole thing should play out, where should we start? Should we look at the legal side? Should we look at the cultural side? I mean, people are saying, hey, this guy is a successful Black man, and therefore they're gonna come after him with full throttle. How are you looking at this situation?
Well, I do think I have the cultural wider view, but I also have that individual view of this person and how much has taken place in and around him over the decades. And the allegations, like I say, have been nothing new, although he has vehemently denied any wrongdoing. Again, everyone is innocent, presumed innocent in our system until there's evidence presented in the court of law and tried, and that, they are convicted. So I'm very, cautious in terms of rendering any type of pronouncement about Mr. Combs. But I would be, disingenuous if I am not thinking about all of not only the recent case filings, but all of the rumors and all the things that happened in and around folks who, have brought this type of behavior up in his past. And, why are we seeing it now? There's so many things I'm thinking about. Why are we seeing it now? What does this mean? Others of my, friends and colleagues, when we've talked about it over the last 24 hours, are like, oh, it's conspiracy. Oh my gosh. Are they trying to distract us from, maybe some of the Nickelodeon allegations? If you guys have watched that, I just started watching that documentary and what happened to those poor kid actors while they're working at Nickelodeon, being abused by people, and how is this a distraction? I think we can walk and chew gum. I don't think we should, if those folks have been, also in the same vein, brought up and their names have been presented as people who have violated people, they should get equal scrutiny, and it shouldn't just be a Mr. Combs thing. I thought about it as well, and then I have some conspiracy theorists in my circle right now who are like, so what about this? What about that? So I don't like, trafficking in that kind of thing, but it has been brought to my attention, and I haven't read up enough about it. That of course there was some sort of settlement earlier this year with Mr. Combs and Ciroc, or the owners of Ciroc, Diageo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how, I think there were, and again, I have not read enough about it. I was just trying to do some quick research before the show, how there are some of our conspiratorial brothers and sisters who are saying, maybe this is putting him back in his place because it was a significant settlement. I don't know the details of the settlement. Again, this is speculative on my behalf. I'm just bringing it forward as other things I'm seeing in the zeitgeist of social media saying, well, why him? Why now? If we've known about these things, or there have been rumors about these things all along, why is it now? But I think, again, with the New York law that allowed for the 1 year filing of any, sexual crime victims to come forward, even though the statute of limitations passed, et cetera, that law, that 1 year law, kind of opened the floodgate for a lot of people, including Mr. Combs. So I do think there was a kind of untouchable status that a lot of folks had towards, especially people who are super successful. Again, he's a icon, right? A mogul, by some reports worth $1 billion now. Like, there's so much that he, was able to innovate in terms of the music industry, knock down doors. Like, there's parts of him that, again, folks have been and should be celebrating. But then there's also this side that we sometimes see where there are very revered people in our community that are tied to, what are questionable allegations. So again, if you were one of those people that are like, this is not equal, we haven't seen the Epstein list, we haven't seen, the Nickelodeon people be brought to justice, why are they coming down on the Black man this hard, etc. I do say, we have to be very careful within our community. We see folks, although they are very talented, if they have other things that are going on, we have to call them out just the same. And again, I'm not saying that he's guilty, and we have to wait till we see what evidence and what the search warrant has used as the grounds for probable cause. However, there's a very big discomfort, I think sometimes a dissonance that, I mean, I think of R. Kelly and others where this is a talented individual. This is a, multi-platinum, and I'm not saying that they're the same, right? Two different kind of cases at this point. But I'm just saying that oftentimes within our culture, it's very heartbreaking and very hard to, come to terms with that you could both have a person that is extremely talented in one way, but has another darker side and needs to be held to account. So I don't care, about race and color. If the person is evil, if the person is doing criminal and heinous acts to someone else, regardless of their level of success, and we've seen it in white community icons as well. We just happen to be talking about Mr. Combs today, but there are people who have been, down to Elvis, like marrying a teenager. You could talk about all the different, I wouldn't even call it just vices in this case, but all the different parts of someone that can be, questionable, and whether or not I do see a lot more though support for, some sort of action that holds him to account if there is justification to hold him to account. So again, gotta be very careful. I think we need a break soon. But
we gotta take a break real quick. But look, Sharice Alston, you said if children involved, you need to go to jail right beside Kelly. Leave the kids alone. Disruption of childhood only makes effed up grown-ups. Keeping the cycle going. No sympathy from me. Yeah.
Nothing has been proven, but if that comes out, sis, I'm with you 100%.
I'm with you 1,000%. I'm with you 1,000%. Shauna, you said, Shauna Marsh, thank you for checking in. My mom always said the cat and the dog don't have the same luck. He thought money would protect him from the repercussions. A lot of you are saying that it may not be the case. This is so many different layers. And to your point, Suzette, you're absolutely right that we got to wait till the things come out. But if we look at the history and we look at the behavior and looking at the details of these lawsuits, man, oh man. All right, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. Let's talk about the Supreme Court. Let's talk about the debate around abortion pill access and so much more. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. As president, I put money in pockets and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, as we talk a little bit about some of the big conversations right now that are happening. And I'm checking in with my sister Suzette Speaks, who is a licensed attorney in the state of Florida, host of the Suzette Speaks show, as well as a great political contributor here on the Black Star Network, talking a little bit more about Diddy. I just want to kind of get a couple of comments because the crew is like,
I love reading you guys on YouTube, on Facebook. Shout out to the crew.
Hey, the crew is all in. You don't like my music. You said if you want to join the Millionaires Club, you have to give up the gangster stuff. I'm gonna say that. He said the gangster stuff. Yeah.
We ain't going nowhere.
You know what?
No.
You know what? Who else has said something? Official Sanika, Diddy did it. Okay, that's all Official Sanika had to say. Look at Mingley Natasha Surge. You said Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Diddy, bad boy for life. Enough said.
And I read that one. Going nowhere. We can't be stopped now because we bad boys. I'm sorry.
Oh man.
I'm sorry.
This is not good. You know, if we look at this situation, and I think the worst part, and I said it yesterday, and I just don't want us to lose sight of this, that going back to the point you made this point very early on. You said that we look at the person's talent and we look at their status, their social economic status, and we automatically say, oh, well, this person would never do such a thing like this. But the reality is that we're still human beings. And this is I went to pull up the statement coming from Cassie's lawyer when they heard about the raid. Her lawyer, Douglas Wigdor, he represents her and the Jane Doe who filed a complaint against Diddy in December. They issued a statement saying, quote, "We will always support law enforcement when it seeks to prosecute those that have violated the law. Hopefully, this is the beginning of a process that will hold Mr. Combs responsible for his depraved conduct."
Again, coming from her lawyer, I see why, he would make those statements. Again, Cassie's filing and of her lawsuit was very, it was just it's all aback in terms of things that she talked about. He sexually assaulted her and all these allegations for wanting to leave him, and all these other things made her do all kinds of things. I don't want to kind of bring them back up here, but they were very damning, as you stated. And it exposed him. According to her, these are allegations. Again, he has vehemently denied all said allegations and said this is an attempt to be a money grab, that these other cases are, 30 plus years old. How can you prove it? And it is very difficult sometimes to prove those cases. But in a civil lawsuit, those that were filed under the New York statute, they only require a preponderance of the evidence. That's 51%, right, to possibly be held liable. So that's different from criminal cases, which are beyond a reasonable doubt. So the standard in these cases, if we see a case, I should say, if we see a case as a result of these raids, again, it'll be a higher standard in the criminal justice system than it is in the civil system. On the civil side, where two people sue each other, as opposed to the state or the federal government suing you for breaking a law. We're gonna have to have evidence. And again, they are, I think, confident when you see raids like this that it might produce something that shows a crime. Again, we don't know if it's by him. That's why I want to keep that out there. It happened in his home, but there are so many people again associated with him in his sphere. I'm like, I keep my mind. I don't even want to speculate on who I think it could be, but there's a lot of other people that again are associated with having, access to, or having been at parties of, or having stayed there for some time. Again, we there's so much swirling that again his name has become the center, but we're not really even 100% sure at this moment of this broadcast that he is the center of the probe.
That's true.
But right now, his homes and what evidence was collected have been under scrutiny based on a probable cause. Usually that's again the idea that there was or is or an ongoing or possibly a future crime. And again, there was a judge or some sort of oversight that allowed to say, allow these investigators to say, yes, I'll give you the search warrant, go. So that's all we know, but we don't know that there's any guilt.
I agree with that. Really quickly, I asked my sister, who Tasha loved yesterday, who's a radio DJ in Atlanta, and I want to pose this question to you too, Suzette, because I think it's important that we keep this part of the conversation to the forefront. Do you think this will change the discussion that we have about victimhood, believing women, believing men, just about the victimhood culture that it seems to that is often minimized in cases like this, just because the alleged perpetrators do have talent and money and are seen in such high regard? Do you think this will even shift that within hip hop culture, within the general, or within the language and conversations within Black America?
I don't know, because I think within our community, again, we have this kind of duality, this double-edged sword, where we're trying to protect Black men, of course, because they're under a higher degree of scrutiny in general, just being, just living, just doing them. But I do think we have to, as a culture, within our community, separate, the notoriety from the actual person, right? Again, the public figure sometimes is a point of leverage for them to commit, not saying Mr. Combs specifically, but in general, allows them more access, and oftentimes allows, folks to look away because they have this sense of importance and fame. So just because, again, a person has achieved that, it's sometimes very hard for, the average person to think, well, they can be super talented, but really terrible in another area of their life.
Terrible human beings. Right.
Comfortable with that idea that two things, as you said, it can exist in the same human being. This is, incredible creative, talent that has revolutionized music forever can be in the same body as a human being who has, possibly, and again, all these are allegations, done some really horrific things. So we have to be open as a culture to say, we're going to hold our own to account if that is what the evidence suggests. And again, it feels, a little bit that I don't know if they said that the Russell Simmons allegations and others now have brought the Me Too to hip hop. I don't know if we've fully gotten that. No, we're getting there. I just think as a culture, we're kind of moving forward, but this may open that gateway.
I was just going to say that, Suzette.
We read each other's minds. Yeah.
Right. Like real talk. Like Russell, at first I thought Russell Simmons' situation was going to open it up. It didn't. I'm like, but this one would do it. This one will usher in a nuanced discussion about women, about victimhood, about sexual assault, about misogyny, all of that. All of the stems that come from this situation, this will definitely do it. All right, we got to take another quick pause. Now, on the other side, let's talk a little bit about SCOTUS. Stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. He stoked racial violence, attacked voting rights, and if reelected, vowed to be a dictator and, quote, get revenge. We can't go back. As president, I put money in pockets, creating millions of new jobs, and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, let's switch gears from Diddy to now the Supreme Court, as they have been debating a major issue around abortion rights. Now, the latest conversation with the Supreme Court is rooted in having access to an abortion pill that folks are saying, some are saying, is a different step for women to take, especially to preserve their ability and their right to choose how they want to handle unwanted pregnancies. Now, as we know, the Supreme Court had reversed the 50-plus-year-old ruling on Roe v. Wade, and this has opened the door for a case like this to happen. I want to bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into the conversation as we talk about this case that was the first abortion-related hearing since the court reversed Roe v. Wade. But the real issue here, and I want to share this with the folks here. Take a look at this. This is from CNN and showing you what the real issue and crux of the debate is. At issue in the case are lower court rulings that would have rolled back recent FDA decisions to ease access to a drug called mifepristone. A district court had instituted a nationwide ban on this as well. But let's go to the next one. The case may simply be determined on whether, according to CNN, whether the doctors who brought the original lawsuit had the ability to bring the case in the first place. Now, we know that this particular court has made up of super conservatives and a couple of liberal judges, but they wanted to know, they were demanding to know why access to mifepristone needed to be limited if the smaller number of doctors involved could simply exercise their own religious and conscientious objections individually. So, Suzette, and the decision is expected around this particular case by July. So, Suzette, let's break this thing down, talking about abortion pill access. I think this is quite interesting because this seems to be another pathway for women to say, look, I want to make my own decisions. I want to have agency over my body. The court is saying, okay, maybe. How do we interpret the court's handling of this particular case so far?
Okay, so we have to break down a little bit more of the background as to what mifepristone is. Okay, so this was a hearing that was held yesterday, the oral arguments, as we call them, in front of the Supreme Court. The 9 justices of the Supreme Court heard a case that had moved up through the ranks of the courts, right? So they start the lower courts. I told you they always go through the middle, the appellate courts, and then they go to the high court if it's appealed, right? So mifepristone is medication used for abortion, but mifepristone has been approved since the year 2000 for indications of pregnancy up to 10 weeks. It also has been prescribed or approved by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration of the United States, for necessary use when it comes to people having miscarriages as well. So this drug has been on the market for over 24 years. When it first was approved by the FDA, it had very stringent, because it was brand new, guidelines as to who could prescribe it and how. So at first, when it first came out in year 2000, that doctors had to be certified, or pharmacists also had to go through specialized training. They had to be registered. They had to be either face-to-face or some telehealth instruction, et cetera, et cetera. But as the efficacy of the drug and the uses of the drug in terms of longitudinal studies over time have shown it to be rather safe, very effective. And again, for folks who are not familiar with this type of use, now it's a drug that is widely able to be ordered on the internet. So you could get this, and it's something that, again, that could allow you, the woman who is considering this, the healthcare decision, to move in this direction. And then again, a lot of people don't recognize that oftentimes terminations of pregnancy and things are medically necessary when it comes to the type of pregnancy and all types of complications that can happen. So again, this idea that people just get pregnant and then just have a baby, it's always, going to happen. There's all of these things that have to be considered when it comes to miscarriages, etc. So here is this drug. Here is the plaintiffs on the side who brought the case forward. So we have doctors who came forward, for medical, or you could call them anti-abortion medical groups, as well as 4 individual doctors who said it is hurting them. They are injured by this drug being so widely available without more regulation. Why? Because they're saying that they are dealing with the aftermath, according to them. And again, we'll discuss it more after break, that there are folks now who have all kinds of injury due to mifepristone. But again, there's studies that they even put forward during the oral arguments yesterday are those that have been since countered and have not been, founded scientifically. But they are arguing that they are, A, violating their own Hippocratic oath to do no harm. They feel like they shouldn't have to. And then B, that they are dealing with the aftermath, according to them, of people who are suffering injury because of this. Now, whether or not that is actually a true statement and gives them the standing, we'll discuss right after this.
Absolutely. We got to take another quick pause. When we come back, let's have more conversation about mifepristone and the Supreme Court. I would love to hear what you got to say on this cruise. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. As president, I put money in pockets and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, TV host and licensed attorney, Suzette Speaks, as we talk about some of the big takeaways and the ongoing debate within the Supreme Court over the abortion drug, mifepristone. And this is the debate that, do you think this is a case and a debate, Suzette, that could change the trajectory of the conversation and, more importantly, the policy of how states go about the whole issue of abortion? Is this a game-changing case in that respect?
100%. This is following up to Dobbs. So remember, the Dobbs case was a 2022 case that overturned what was a 50-plus year right of a constitutional right to have termination of pregnancy or an abortion. So since we've seen Dobbs roll back, it went back to the states. Now we have a patchwork of laws across the country with 14 states in the United States out of the 50 that have total abortion bans. We have 7 states with gestational bans. And this now is an attempt to ban the abortion pill right? The pill that allows for the termination of pregnancy and early pregnancy from across the country. That's the goal of this lawsuit. Think about that. Now, if you don't know the frequency of how this is used, majority of termination of pregnancies that happen in the United States happen in this early stage, and the majority are with this pill. So if we looked pre-Dobbs, pre the overturning of Roe v. Wade in 2022, the numbers were more like 51% of all termination of pregnancies in the country were happening by abortion pill. As of 2023, now it's 63% of all termination of pregnancy. So it has gone up since Roe v. Wade. We've also seen in the 6 months, since the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe v. Wade. Also, since the overturning by this conservative Supreme Court of a woman's right to have a termination of pregnancy, just in those first 6 months, the frequency of medical, or they call it dispense through medication, abortion through medication, in just the first 6 months, it went up by 28,000 after the Dobbs decision in 2022 than the prior year's 6 months period. Do you understand? So the frequency and the desire of this has not cut. It actually has gone up since there is now a state-to-state patchwork of different laws across our country that tells a woman when or if she can have a termination of pregnancy. So she could be in one state, but after a certain many weeks, she can't have it in that state. A lot of people are traveling to try to get what, in fact, to me, is medical care. Because sometimes that is what happens when people are not able to carry pregnancies to term, when the mother's life is in danger, not to mention cases of when, a person is raped, or if there's incest or other things where there are folks who on different sides of this issue believe that there should be a right, and others that say no matter what, there should not be a right. But remember, 14 states already have a total ban. Okay, so going from where we were with what happened with this doctor group, we have to keep in mind this is also a part of what elections do, because remember, the United States president is who appoints the federal judges to lifetime service on the federal bench. We just understood, and again, in shows that we've done, we talked about how Biden has diversified that bench, appointing more Black women to the bench than any other president, right? More than half of the Black women who are sitting on there have now been appointed by Joe Biden. But this particular judge, where this case came from, it started in Amarillo, Texas. Why am I telling you this? Because this particular, what we call location, we could call it a forum in legal jargon, this forum, right, where the court is located, the United States District Court of Northern Texas, there is a federal judge, right, a U.S. District Court judge named Mr. Let me get the name right, Matthew Kacsmaryk. Many believe that these conservative anti-abortion doctor groups specifically chose this location to bring this lawsuit. Now, in legal class, in law school, they tell you this is called forum shopping. This is wrong, right? To try to find a place that's going to agree, or have the judges in that specific place to try to agree with the outcome that you want. But they know if they file it in the Northern District of Texas, there's a 90% chance or more that you're going to get Judge Kacsmaryk. Now, he's a Trump appointee. He was nominated in 2017. He was then confirmed in 2019. Kacsmaryk also worked for, used to work for a Christian legal defense organization, et cetera, et cetera. So you kind of have an idea of where his judicial philosophy might lay. So it's not an accident that they filed the lawsuit there, right? So this is, to me, a test case. It went through the ranks. It went up to the appellate. Now it's at the Supreme Court. But as you stated, to me, they brought this before the justices to say, here, we want to ban mifepristone based on what they're saying their injury is. Now, do they have standing? Now, remember, in a lawsuit, for you to bring a lawsuit, I'm trying to read it as quickly as I can. The right of the party to challenge is based on their ability to prove in the suit that they have actual or imminent injury, right? Alleged injury that is concrete and particularized, so that they can seek a remedy. I know that's very big in terms of the legalese. So they have to show that they are being damaged by this drug. So the question of standing becomes, are these doctors actually injured by the FDA's approval of this drug at a wide scale for everyone in the country? Or are they not showing enough proof of particularized injury? Because they at their levels can say, I'm not treating this. They can say, I'm not prescribing this. Why is it that they're seeking a remedy? Does it match the standing? To say no to all across the country, the availability of this drug. So people are saying, are they the right party, right? Are they the people that should be suing? You're telling me because you're a doctor and because you have to A, prescribe it or should have ability to prescribe it and it goes against the religious beliefs, and B, they're saying that they have seen patients that have suffered because of the use of this drug and that it has created broad-based injury, but that is not factual in terms of research by the FDA. The other part of this case, Farajii, is that it possibly puts in the balance for the judges to determine whether the FDA has done a good job at regulating drugs. So Ketanji Brown Jackson, if you listen to any of the oral arguments, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson asked, again, you can't see video of this, only thing they allow is the recording. She asked, so are we here at the Supreme Court the best arbiters of what medicine should be available to the American public, or should it be, in fact, determined by the Food and Drug Administration? Are they, in fact, the experts? So we see this kind of ideological challenge to the FDA's authority, to federal authority to regulate certain medicines, right? And if the conservative viewpoint pervades, and this isn't a big if, this could now put into question anything the FDA does. The other thing I would like to point out, that if the court decides to keep the power in itself, that the Supreme Court has the power to tell the FDA, no, you have broadly brought this drug forth. Again, I don't know if that is the what can I say, the appetite of the justices based on their questions, but this also will put into play the fact that if someone like a Mr. Trump wins in the fall, all he would need to do is to point his type of Food and Drug Administration top dog, the administrator there, to then change the regulations, and it wouldn't even need to come before a court. Do you hear what I'm saying? So a lot more I can say about this, but I know we have to take a break.
We got to take a break, but you broke it down to the least compound, right, to all the way down, and I truly appreciate you for that, because that gives us some context as to what, some of the big challenges that we're facing as it relates to this particular conversation, and for the larger issue of abortion, especially its impact on women. And, I'm seeing in the chat, there are a number of sisters like Tiana and others who are saying, look, this is just as important to Black women's health as anything else, that this is not a racialized conversation in terms of abortion pill access. Like, you Black women need to have choices and to be supported and to have the resources available, just like white women, just like Latino women and other women in this country. So it's so important. As Shauna Marshall, one of our culture crew members, made the point, she was just saying that, look, this is going back to Handmaid's Tale. This is going back to a dystopian reality where the actual body of a woman is still being politicized and is being controlled essentially by policy, controlled by men. Of course, you have women. A woman
and her doctor, not by a woman and her doctor.
That's it, and that's it. Look, we got to take another pause. We're going to keep our eyes on this particular case as it goes through the Supreme Court. But again, there's a decision expected by July, and we'll certainly keep you up to date on it. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's go travel down to the state of Florida, as Governor Ron DeSantis has officially signed a social media ban for children, and what that all means for young people in Florida. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. As president, I put money in pockets and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Black Star Network is here.
punch.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister Suzette Speaks. And for our final conversation, we're traveling down to the state of Florida to take a look at what's happening down there. There's always something happening in Florida.
Isn't there?
Always something happening in Florida. But today we wanted to talk about how Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a very, very controversial bill. A bill that is going to ban social media for children. Take a look at this. Here's the latest from The Guardian. Once it takes effect, the bill signed on Monday bans social media accounts for children under 14 and require parental permission for 14 and 15-year-olds. It was slightly watered down from a proposal that DeSantis vetoed earlier in March, a week before the annual legislative session ended. Now, here's the latest on this. We'll take a look at this. Let's put up quote number 2 for this. The new law was the top legislative priority for Republican State House Speaker Paul Renner. It takes effect on January 1. But according to Mr. Renner, he said a child in their brain development doesn't have the ability to know that they're being sucked into these addictive technologies and to see the harm and step away from it. And because of that, we have to step in for them. Now, he said it's at a ceremony for the bill signing held at a Jacksonville school.
Yeah. Welcome to Florida. We have this.
The one was in Florida. But you know what, though? I'm going to be honest with you. Can we keep it 100%?
Sure.
I don't know if I'm truly mad with the governor signing this.
Listen, so there's a lot of people that support it. I was trying to look up the names of the bill sponsors, and I think the original bill was sponsored by a Black woman, state legislator, who I am actually, colleagues with. I met her on several times, different locations, and I was looking at why she sponsored it. Let me grab that information to be accurate during the break. But yes, so there are parental groups and others that are not. I mean, there's not a furious, oh no, yet. Right? Because again, this doesn't go into effect first and foremost until 2025. So keep that in mind. They're going to let it simmer for a little bit. I think that was wise because I do believe that there will be legal challenges. So what does that mean? The governor said himself he expects this possibly to be challenged under the First Amendment. The original version that was submitted during the state legislative session here in Florida had it at 13. And I think we've seen other states, go a little bit higher. But now we've settled that, kids under 14 and I think 14 and 15-year-olds will now, under this law, when it goes into effect in 2025, need parental permission to utilize social media. And I do think this also allows the social media companies to develop mechanisms to ensure that they are following this state's law. Now, Florida has always been a trailblazer. I'm reading about other possible states following suit. And there were a couple before it that have taken up this type of legislation that says, that children are, or based on research that shows that children are highly addicted to this type of stuff, how it just negatively impacts their development and why it in fact will protect young people from, social bullying and other pressures of social media that we, again, did not have to. Those of us who grew up before the internet could just go to school and deal with the, if you will, drama there and then come home and then it was done. Now, kids are far more addicted far earlier. So I think there are those who will not be too mad, just like yourself, that maybe didn't advocate for this, but now that it is law, thinking, maybe this might be helpful for me to be able to regulate what's going on with my child. And again, at the ages of 14 and 15, they can do it with parental, under this law, parental permission. But again, the First Amendment right that is enshrined in the Constitution is probably the grounds that is going to be used to challenge this law. So whether it will remain in effect, we'll see. I think they did a purposefully tried to leave some time before it went into effect. But this is huge. This is huge when it comes to
Let me just tell you something.
This type of legislation.
Let me tell you something. Again, for me, when I hear about policy, it doesn't come down from, oh, who put up the policy? Oh, that's terrible policy just because the Republicans did it, or just because, oh, it's great policy because the Democrats do it. Good policy is good policy. So I want to let everyone know that's where I start the conversation. But when we're talking about our children's growth and development, I just came across this piece in the Los Angeles Times this morning, Suzette, where they had named those who were born between 2010 through 2024. They are named Generation Alpha. Let me just say that again, Generation Alpha. The Alphas are now being called everything from feral, F-E-R-A-L, feral, illiterate, because they have so much access to technology that they can't do simple things like reading, math, and other, subjects in school, right?
Right cursive.
Right cursive.
Yes.
No, it's a great point. Excellent point. Right cursive. But they're looking at this generation is being seen as one of the most lazy generations. However, they're saying that the Generation Alpha, and I just read this morning, it blew me away. This is the largest cohort of children that the earth has ever seen. This group of young people between 2010 and 2024. So I thought to myself, like, wow. So now we're talking, now that we see that, let's bring in the technology piece. At 14 and 15 years old, we know with the heads of where a lot of our young people are. They're on TikTok, they're on social media, right? And if we don't put some parameters around it, then I think it's going to open up this Pandora's box. The other part of them from the LA Times said, it's not just the generation that is illiterate or lazy. They're saying that millennial parents have allowed too much leniency to expose these children that are born between 2010 and 2024, to expose these children to too much. And that has become part of the problem. And so now I see within the chat, we have a number of people. I think it's you, St. Gaither, and I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name, but I appreciate you for joining the chat. You talked about the fact of government interfering with parental responsibility. And I have to say, Suzette, in 2024, there's no handbook on how to be parents, but we see the end result. We see the outcomes each and every day. Just ask any teacher in America.
Yeah, I'm not a mom, and I do think
I know that, but I'm just saying,
it's one of the toughest jobs out here. Shout out to the parents trying to do it right.
And they need to be supported. But guess what? I don't necessarily push back on any particular policy that's going to bring some sort of balance into a child's life, growth, and development. And for those parents who don't know how to stop their children from getting onto the iPad or getting onto social media, they need help.
Yeah, they do. So there are people that are on both sides of this coin. I know I've heard, and I can share quickly anecdotally, but there is a mental health tie. Like, there has been studies about the impact of social media and electronics, etc., on the mental health of younger kids and younger people. So this is a very widely studied phenomenon that, again, we didn't have to deal with. Again, Generation Alpha, I will not make any pronouncements about Generation Alpha. I don't know if any of those things are true, but I do know that, for example, I was in the airport not too long ago, and I was going through the security bag check, and there's this little girl next to me. She cannot be 10. And she's taking out her little face creams, etc., to put into the cart to go through the scanner. So I was like, oh my gosh, is that all yours? And then, I'm always going to be Chatty Cathy. And she was like, yeah, this is my facial stuff. Like, she's 10 and she has fully face cream. And then the parents look at me and they go, TikTok. And I thought, wow, this child.
You know what they call that? And that's so funny you say, you know what they call that? That is interesting. They call that the Sephora tween.
Oh boy, I feel bad. I was just like this little
Sephora
girl.
tween, because 12-year-olds are getting beauty hacks
She
and
got
tips
anti-aging cream
all
at 10
from
years
TikTok.
old. She
I
got
never
eye
thought
cream at 10 years old and things like this that they're constantly, and I meant to send you an article, Farajii, about how different groups of Americans are getting their news. But that whole generation is, if it's on TikTok, it's true. And so that's why, again, why there are lawmakers who want to regulate it. I'm not saying I'm for it or for banning it. I'm just saying that there's this whole phenomenon around what people believe and the parents are having. And people will say, and again, I don't judge any parent, oh, parents should be able to control their kids. Their kids now, this alpha generation, are getting their information from other places other than their parents, or you could call it in addition to their parents, depending on how strictly you regulate your child. But I know, friends and family members who will not allow their children to go on electronics before the age of 5, before they go to school. And I've seen a difference in the children in terms of their responsiveness in conversation, their words, their ability to read, emotions and having, emotional intelligence, etc. And it does have, make a difference in the parental styles that are more traditional. It's the fact that they're being challenged by this, new breed of technology. I was just looking at, and I was trying to figure out the sponsors behind this. 2 lawmakers. This was from 2023, and I think they brought back the bill today. This year in session. 2 lawmakers were the ones who came together to put together the proposal. And one is Representative Michelle Rayner Goolsbee, a Democrat of St. Petersburg, and Representative Tyler Siror. I don't know if I'm saying the last name right. Republican representative from Brevard. But I know when she's talked about it, especially for kids under 18, she's talked about the amount of bullying she has experienced as a grown-up, as an adult, and what it did to her. So she's saying, if I am facing this level of, constant barrage of just negativity and how it has impacted me and my mental health, can you imagine, a child under 18 and what they're experiencing? So whether or not it will pass constitutional muster or not, we'll see. Governor DeSantis, again, had his trepidation, but he signed it. So that means, to me, he read the tea leaves, and there were some people that were in support of this, and he went for it. So he didn't veto it. He ended up signing what was passed by the Florida legislature.
Oh, look, horrible program. You said no. The problem with the Florida bill is that police will be able to arrest parents for neglect if they don't monitor their children. We need laws that restrict government, not expand them. I don't know if the enforcement will it go that far, Suzette?
Let me go into it a little bit more deeply. I don't know. I don't know what the repercussions are for not following the bill, but we can do a follow-up show.
Yeah, we could definitely do a follow. But here's the thing, though. It's so funny because you, on one side, when it comes to parenting, parental responsibility, on one side, you have this school of thought that says that parenting, you have, what do they call it? Soft parenting, or, there's a certain word for that. Right. You got soft parenting, which is guiding. And then you, on the other side, the other extreme is helicopter parenting. Let me just tell you, I'm going to just tell y'all, let me just say, as one who has 2 children, I'm telling you, your whole world, your whole decision-making ability changes when you have a 4-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old in your face, mom, dad, please, please. And there's social pressure. You have internal pressure from the child. You got pressure from, well, I went to so-and-so's house and so-and-so said that his parents let him do this. And you got that level of pressure. You got all these decisions. Like, it's not like when we grew up. Like, if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you can go hardcore in the paint. Like, nope, we're not doing this. Nope, we're not doing this.
Parents would punch you in the face and tell you, go sit down. God forgive me. I don't advocate violence. But you would get a look like, if you don't sit down right now. And I mean that figuratively. But no, they would look at you like, are you crazy? I told you no, have several seats. Like, why are we arguing?
Exactly.
No. This is a different time. This is a different time.
Look, sometimes my children are like, my son, he's real good. He'd be like, I just can't even play on the video game, Dad. And I'd be like, thinking about
very similar, but my brother does not let up. She can't do half of what her little friends do.
But that's what I'm saying. But see, then here's the risk that you run. You run the risk of, do you want to, like, how much leniency, how much leverage do you give your child? Because if you don't, then they're going to find a way, or they're going to hold it up inside of them, and then they're going to, first opportunity, I'm going to do
crazy.
what I want to do.
And I know we have to wrap, but
Yeah.
I've seen, where there are unfortunately like kids that sneak, their phones get taken from them and they find a way to go get a phone. I'm like, that's addiction. I've seen the parents, we've had conversations offline, this is, they're defying me. I'm like, no, they're addicted to the technology. Like I have friends with teenagers now, they have to collect phones at night, put it in their room. They have to turn off Wi-Fi. They have to do all kinds of things because it is changing the child's brain. This is a part
and
of.
Guess what?
You're not talking about self-control the same way we're talking about it, but I know we got to wrap up. So
we got to wrap. But this, it's such a deep issue because if you don't have children, it's kind of hard to say. And I don't want to throw no shade on nobody. That's your choice. But it's not easy. This stuff is not easy, man. This ain't the 80s and 90s, man. This is 2024. You're talking about all this technology, especially for us. If your child sees you constantly carrying the phone to the bathroom, to the kitchen, to this part of you on the phone, and then you're going to tell your children, don't get on the iPad?
No, be continued. This is too deep. We gotta go.
We gotta go. All right, Suzette. Hey, how can people catch up with you? I know you're doing some great work.
Yes.
Where can people go to find all
We're
the good stuff you're doing?
I have not officially launched, but I'll be on FM radio here, Miami, Fort Lauderdale area.
Y'all heard? Wait a minute. Hold on.
We gonna save it, but it's huge. Oh,
y'all know Suzette. You know Suzette had a soft launch on 2 stations in Miami, Florida. That's going to be speaking to the Caribbean community, to Black Caribbean folks in Miami, Florida. A little soft launch.
We're throwing it out there. We're slowly rolling out, but check me out on social media at Suzette Speaks on all platforms. And I appreciate you guys subscribing to my YouTube channel and just following me on all platforms. I always love the conversation here. Appreciate you, Farajii.
I appreciate you, Suzette. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Suzette, for being so good for the culture. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you for joining me for the conversation. Make sure y'all do your due diligence. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And, of course, throw something in the bucket. I want to give a big shout out to Brother Wali Assad. Brother Wali Assad, you are another great donor as you contributed to Black Star Network, and you are coming in at the level 1 role as you bring the funk as part of the Bring the Funk fan club. So, Brother Wali, thank you so much for making your donation with us here on the Culture on the Black Star Network. We truly appreciate you, brother. Thank you. But folks, you could do the same thing. So just go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, follow me, yours truly, Farajii Muhammad, on social media. You can find me on Instagram at The Real Farajii and on Twitter at Farajii, and I would love to connect with you. All right? Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered RMU. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Have a great evening. Peace.